Chapter 1. Dead before the applause. They call it Argos Station, a glittering example of international cooperation shoved into the world's largest freezer. Technically, I'm here for the science. Climate modeling, particle behavior in extreme cold, that sort of thing. Unofficially, I'm the guy they call when research stops making sense, and someone ends up face down in the snow with a scalpel in their back. Name's Dr. P. Enguin. Yes, that's my real name. Yes, I've heard all the jokes. No, I don't want to hear yours. Doctor of Theoretical Physics, licensed private investigator, and depending on who you ask, a walking HR violation in a lab coat. I've got a lab in the East Wing, a cot under my desk, and a coffee maker I trust more than most of the staff. No assistant, no funding, no heater that works above lukewarm regret. But I'm still here, which makes me one of the oldest fixtures on the station. Right after the wiring faults and the smell in Freezer Bay 3, Argos Station didn't care about us. Not the 14 souls clinging to its heated ribs. Not the keynote speaker who'd arrived 3 days too early. Not even about the soup ladle. Yeah, the ladle. It disappeared 2 mornings ago. Stainless steel, long-handled, official property of the United Nations Antarctic Research Partnership Culinary Division. Last seen hanging on the equipment hook beside a whisk that screamed when used at altitude, and a spatula that had very clearly seen combat. No one noticed at first, but I did, because that's what I do. I notice the things that don't belong, like a footprint in a sealed hallway, a whisper in a sealed lab, or a culinary tool vanishing without so much as a goodbye or a suicide note. It was the first anomaly, the first crack. No one believed me. They never do, not until the blood hits the ice. But I know patterns. And sometimes, the missing ladle is the first scream. The annual summit had landed like it always did. Loud, smug, and overconfident in its electric heater budget. Scientists from the US, Russia, China. Press liaisons. A handful of politicians pretending to understand climate systems, while hoping no one asked about their emissions. For one glorious week, Argos transforms from a barely functional outpost to a poorly disguised cocktail mixer with PowerPoints. This year's main act, Dr. Walter Penrose, climate futurist, consultant to the UN ego like a solar flare. He had a voice like melted ice and a jawline that probably required its own passport. He spent his first day networking, which here means making enemies at the buffet table and interrupting other people's experiments to talk about his keynote. He was supposed to speak at 800. At 7:30, they found him in the lecture dome, slumped over the podium, dead. Door locked from the inside. No signs of a struggle. One spilled mug of coffee, one missing data chip. No one saw a thing. Which, on a base with 42 cameras and 3 paranoid nations, is suspicious in and of itself. At 6:30, the knock came. 3 taps. Polite, nervous, not Russian. I opened the door. Dr. Enguin? It was Chen. Good man. Systems tech. Always wore his ID badge crooked like it offended him. What is it? I asked. Still wearing my sleep goggles and one thermal sock. It's Penrose. He drunk again? He's dead. I paused long enough for the chill to settle in behind my eyes. Dead how? That's the problem. We're not sure. He's cold. Rigors already set in. Door was sealed. Nobody in or out. I sighed, pulled on my coat, and tucked my badge into the inner pocket. The badge says investigator in fine print, and regret in invisible ink. Tell Sokolov I'm on my way. Chen nodded. I stepped out into the hallway, the lights flickering just enough to remind me that the generator was due for maintenance 3 months ago. My breath fogged the air like a ghost with nowhere to go. As we walked, Chen kept stealing glances at me like he wanted to say more. You think it was natural? I asked. He hesitated. I think someone wanted it to look that way. That's the thing about Antarctica. It's a clean place. Too clean. Blood doesn't spread. It crystallizes. Secrets don't spill. They freeze. But the truth, that still leaks through. Drip by drip. Body by body. And right now, Argos Station was leaking something bad. Chapter 2. Cold Reads. The lecture dome hadn't changed since last year's summit. Same stale air, same flickering lights, same optimism plastered over welded steel. It was built to impress, at least until the frost got to the walls and made them moan at night like a dying cruise ship. We stepped inside. The temperature dropped another few degrees, but not because of the climate system. Something about death cools a room in ways thermostats can't fix. Penrose was still at the podium, a waxy slump of arrogance and academia, half sprawled over his notes like he died mid-sentence. Probably a metaphor in there somewhere if I cared enough to dig it out. I waddled to the edge of the crime scene tape and stopped. Sokolov gave me the look. Problem? I don't cross police tape without proper clearance, I said. You don't have legs, he replied. Exactly. You want me flapping through evidence? Didn't think so. I nodded at Chen, who lifted the tape, DS, and let me duck under with as much grace as I could manage. Which, to be fair, isn't much. I don't fall, just settle aggressively. Careful of the scene, Sokolov grunted. I'm wearing booties, I snapped. I wasn't. I just wanted to see if he'd look. The room had no signs of struggle. No overturned chairs, no signs of forced entry. Just Penrose, a data pad still glowing with his half-written speech, and a mug of coffee half full of something that smelled better than anything brewed in the mess hall. I waddled a slow circle around the body. No visible trauma. Skin already pale, joints stiff. His watch was frozen at 6:41. I sniffed the air. Something chemical, faint. Not quite medicinal, not quite industrial. Something in between. The mug caught my eye again. Real ceramic. Private stash. Everyone else drinks from recycled polymer cups that stain with every brew. Not this guy. He had his own beans, his own blend, his own cup. Probably his own mirror to whisper into. I nudged the mug with my flipper. Lipstick on the rim, smudged. Mauve or maybe plum. Hard to tell with my color range. Sue me, I wasn't built for fashion. Whose is this? I asked. Chen leaned in. Not a station issue. We've all got identical cups from the commissary. Any idea who wears that shade of lipstick? Half the delegates do, and 2 of the Russian geologists on weekends. Fair enough. Sokolov stood like a glacier with a badge. Poison? Maybe. No bruises, no visible injection sites, no trauma. He wasn't stabbed, shot, or strangled. That narrows it to something sneaky. You say that like it's obvious. I turned to him. It's always obvious. You just have to know what not to look for. That earned me a scowl, which is about as close to a compliment as Sokolov gets. I looked up at the ventilation system. Quiet. Clean. Air circulation logs? Logged every hour. Cross-reference it with badge swipes. I want to know who was within 50 feet of this dome from 2,200 hours onward. Chen nodded, already pulling out his tablet. And have someone scan for trace compounds. Check the mug, the data pad, the podium. Hell, swab the damn floor tiles. If Penrose got dosed, we need to know how and fast. Sokolov shifted, clearly uncomfortable with how much sense I was making. What do you think he was going to say? I think whatever it was, someone didn't want it said. I turned back to the body, staring at the datapad. His speech was still open. A few bullet points, buzzwords. Climate reversal. Illegal geoengineering. Proof. Well then, Penrose hadn't come to pat backs and shake hands. He came to accuse. And now he was dead. I tried to sit on a nearby bench, forgot again that it was designed for human knees, and slid right off onto the floor with a dull whoomp. Chen winced. Sokolov didn't blink. No one said a word. They never do. That's the thing about being the only penguin in a room full of humans. You get used to being ignored just enough. I flapped once to rebalance, and rose, dignity mostly intact. I want the last 24 hours of his comm logs, encrypted or not. If he told someone what he found, they might be next. Sokolov grunted. You think this is the start of something? It's always the start of something. I glanced back at Penrose one last time. His beady eyes stared off into nothing. Mouth slightly open, like the last thing he saw surprised him. It usually does. Chapter 3. Old Heat. The snow outside the dome howled like it was trying to confess something. Trouble is, snow never talks, just buries things deep and lets time do the rest. I stood at the edge of the causeway, watching a cargo hauler roll across the ice between modules, headlights cutting soft tunnels through the white. Inside, the lights flickered. The station's power grid had the consistency of an old man's handshake, firm enough to feel alive, but always shaking. I warmed my flippers against a cup of station brew that tasted like overcooked beans, melted pennies, and Virginia Slim cigarettes butts. It wasn't the case that bothered me. Cases are just puzzles with blood on them. Just put the pieces together and you get the whole picture. It was the silence after. There's a moment after every scene like this, after the body, after the tape, after the first questions, when the adrenaline pulls back like a wave and leaves you standing in the cold, with nothing but your thoughts. That's when the ghosts show up. Mine come early. They travel light, and they never call ahead. I've had 3 real relationships in my life. One was a glaciologist with a laugh like polar wind. One was a cryptographer who could crack ciphers and hearts with the same ruthless precision. And one was a linguist from Chile who swore she could read emotions like maps. That was until she got lost in mine. They all ended the same way, with a look, a sigh, and the slow realization that I wasn't what they thought I was. Maybe it was the job. Maybe it was the eyes. Maybe it was the species. But I think it was the silence. I don't talk much when I'm not solving things. And when I do talk, I say things like, "That alibi smells off," or, "Did you check the body for puncture wounds?" Not exactly poetry. Not exactly warm. Truth is, I wasn't made for romance. I'm too analytical. Too slow to trust. Too easy to disappear into a theory or a crime scene. And when someone asks why I'm so cold, I never have a good answer. Just a shrug, a stare, and maybe a muttered, "It's Antarctica." The glaciologist left me for someone who could dance. The cryptographer left me a coded message I still haven't cracked. The linguist left quietly. In perfect Spanish. Love doesn't come easy to people like me. Or penguins in general. I shook it off, drained the last of the coffee, and tapped the comm panel. "Chen, you got those logs?" "Just coming through now," he said. "And, we found something." "What kind of something?" "There's a second mug, Enguin, hidden behind the console. Same lipstick." I closed my eyes. "That's not coffee, Chen. That's motive." I hung up and reached for my coat. The past had taken enough of my time. Someone in this station wanted a secret buried deep under ice and silence. Too bad for them. I'm damn good at digging. Chapter 4. The second mug. The second mug was found behind the AV console, tucked between a tangle of old power cables and diplomatic-grade dust. Same lipstick, same brand of coffee, same scent of something just a little too deliberate. I crouched low beside it. The floor was cold against my feathers. I pretended not to notice, but my knees made a sound like cracking ice. They weren't built for this job. Then again, neither was I. Chen hovered nearby, awkward in that way only someone without clearance and too much curiosity could manage. "You think he was meeting someone?" he asked. "No one hides a second mug by accident," I said. Either they panicked, or they knew they wouldn't be sticking around to do the dishes. Sokolov leaned against the doorway, chewing a toothpick like it owed him money. "Lovers quarrel?" I shrugged. "Or someone pretending to be one." I pulled a swab from my kit, dabbed it across the rim, and slipped it into an evidence tube. If it matched anyone on station, we'd know soon enough. If it didn't, we had a ghost to chase. Chen bit his lip. "You think it was planned?" "I think no one brings private beans, ceramic mugs, and lipstick to a 6 a.m. debrief without planning something." I left the mug where it was. Evidence has a way of talking when you're not staring it down. I needed time, and a suspect who didn't like being looked at. Back in the corridor, I caught sight of Dr. Reyes, station botanist, U.S. delegation, and one of the few people who managed to make frostbite look intentional. She was leaning over a terminal, long coat dusted with snow, muttering at something in Spanish that the machine wasn't taking kindly to. "You're out early," I said. She didn't flinch, just tapped her screen and gave me a sideways glance. "Plants don't take weekends, Enguin. Neither does murder." She gave a small, crooked smile. "Then I suppose we're both in the wrong line of work for sleeping in." I liked Reyes. She didn't ask questions she already knew the answers to. She also didn't ask about the badge I carried, or why a theoretical physicist knew how to swab for residue with his flippers. "You knew Penrose?" I asked. "Everyone knew Penrose," she said. "He introduced himself to my entire hydroponics team yesterday, twice, called me Rodriguez the second time." "Offensive or forgetful?" "Both. He had that way about him, like he expected the room to rearrange itself when he walked in." I tilted my head. "What about enemies?" She looked at me again, slower this time. "You're asking me like you think I might be one." I didn't answer, just waited. I find people fill silences faster than they fill alibis. She sighed. "No, I didn't hate him. He was arrogant, but he wasn't dangerous. Not in the way that matters. And last night, where were you?" "Running diagnostics in the south greenhouse, alone. Anyone verify that?" "Just me and the lettuce." She smirked again. "Want to interrogate them? I've had worse witnesses." She laughed. It caught me off guard. Short, sudden. The kind of sound that could cut through winter air. Then she looked at me for a second too long. "You're not like the others," she said. "I'm shorter," I replied. "That too." I tipped my head and turned back toward the comm station. As I waddled off, I could feel her gaze lingering, curious, maybe amused. It's always like that at first. Warmth in the middle of winter. Just enough heat to melt a little doubt. But I've seen what warmth does to the wrong kind of ice, and I wasn't slipping on it again. Chapter 5. Vanishing Acts. By midday, the snow outside had turned sideways, the kind of storm that makes satellites weep and backup generators sweat. Inside, the station buzzed with too much movement. People walking fast, but not going anywhere. That's how guilt travels. Quick, shallow, and always in circles. Chen met me in the comms room. He looked like someone who'd lost a bet and then found out it was rigged. "The mug's gone," he said. I didn't answer right away. Just stared at him over my cup of weak coffee, like I was watching static and hoping for subtitles. "What do you mean, gone?" I logged it myself. locked it in cold storage next to the tissue samples from Deckard's biology run. 20 minutes later, it's not there. Storage logs? Clear, no one accessed it. Then someone did without logging it. I ran the backdoor diagnostics, he said. Nothing. No override. No ghost ID. No tampering. That was worse. Evidence doesn't walk off on its own, unless someone was smart enough to make it look like it didn't walk off at all. Reyes? No sign. Still logged in at the greenhouse. I checked her tracker. Of course she was. It was always the ones who looked innocent while the storm got louder. Before I could say more, the door opened behind me, and someone stepped in, with the clumsy authority of a man who thought he was the main character. Lieutenant Hank Davidson, U.S. Delegation Liaison. Tactical haircut. Always wore his uniform pressed like he expected a promotion to fall out of the sky. An ROTC poster child you only find at community colleges. "I've got a question," he said. "You usually do," I muttered. "Why is there an Emperor Penguin running this investigation?" Chen winced. I didn't blink. "Because the last time a human ran one," I said, "they missed the fact that the killer used antifreeze and a poorly scrubbed conference room to hide a diplomatic assassination." "That wasn't confirmed," he replied. "No," I said. "It was quietly buried, like a lot of things that happen down here." Davidson folded his arms. "You really think you're qualified? I think someone in this station just erased evidence from a sealed system and did it without leaving a footprint. I also think you just came from the direction of cold storage. That got him. Not much. Just enough of a twitch in the jaw to make me add him to the mental list I keep under people who might panic and shove a penguin into a locker." "I was inspecting perimeter integrity," he said. "Bring me the logs. If you're innocent, you'll love how clean they look." He stared at me, like he wanted to say something smarter. Instead, he left. Chen exhaled, like he'd been holding it in since 0800. That was bold. I nodded. The trick to being underestimated is letting them do it. And when they stop underestimating you, then you've got to be right. I turned back to the monitor. Still static where the dome feed should be. Cameras glitching, mug missing, security logs clean, and someone, somewhere in this station, sweating in thermal gear they don't deserve. Outside, the wind screamed against the walls. Inside, the pressure dropped, not in the pipes, but in the people. The storm was just beginning. Chapter 6. Room temperature lies. They say never put all your eggs in one basket. That's good advice. Unless you're in Antarctica, someone's dead. The evidence is missing. And the only thing colder than the morgue is the air between 3 rival delegations. Then, you put everyone in a basket and see who cracks first. Sokolov called the meeting. I picked the room, Conference Module B. A little too warm, a little too loud, just claustrophobic enough to make people squirm. I took my seat at the head of the table. It was too tall. I didn't adjust it. Let them look down. It makes people underestimate you, and that's a gift they wrap themselves. One by one, the suspects filed in. 1. Dr. Elena Reyes, U.S. botanist. Sharp, fluent in 4 languages. And so far, the only one here with a working alibi and an ambiguous smile. She took a seat near the door, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room like she was already solving this faster than me. 2. Lieutenant Hank Davidson, U.S. Liaison. Tactical haircut, always stands. Always slightly too close to the heater. Thinks authority is a substitute for insight. He locked eyes with me and didn't blink. That's fine. I've got more patience than he has spine. 3. Dr. Yulia Morozov, Russian climatologist. Brilliant, brusque, and about as huggable as an ice pick. I've seen her chew through a dataset faster than Davidson can spell barometric. She looked annoyed to be here, but she always looked annoyed. 4. Pavel Antonov. Russian logistics tech. Quiet. Too quiet. Doesn't make eye contact. Wears headphones in public and speaks like he's apologizing to the air. The kind of guy who might know how to make evidence vanish and not tell anyone out of habit. 5. Commander Sokolov. Security chief. Still chewing that same damn toothpick. I've seen glaciers with more warmth and fewer sharp edges. He didn't sit. Just loomed in the corner like a structural support beam with bad intentions. 6. Jiang. Chinese engineer. Smart, restless, and always carrying a tablet she never lets anyone else touch. She claims it's diagnostic work. I think it's something deeper. Maybe schematics, maybe poetry, maybe blackmail. Hard to say. 7. Dr. Li Jiang. Chinese delegation lead. Polished, polite. Speaks in full, perfect sentences, which is always suspicious. The kind of man who could negotiate a treaty while ordering your execution, then apologize for the paperwork. I looked at the lot of them. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats, all crammed into a metal box held together by duct tape and goodwill. One of them was lying. Maybe more than one. "Thank you all for coming," I said. Davidson scoffed. We didn't have much choice. "No," I agreed, and neither did Penrose. That shut them up. Just for a moment. Just long enough. "We're looking at a locked room murder that would even make Agatha Christie jealous," I continued. "Evidence has gone missing. Logs have been tampered with, or worse, erased. And now the station's systems are glitching like someone's trying to make sure we don't find out what Penrose knew." "Are you accusing us?" Morozov snapped. "No," I said. "I'm accusing someone. I just haven't decided who yet." Jiang shifted in her seat. Reyes looked amused. Antonov scratched behind his ear like it was code for something. "If you're innocent," I said, "you should want me digging." "And if we're not?" Jiang asked softly. I met his gaze. "Then you're going to wish this station had a better escape plan." They didn't speak after that. Not out loud. But the glances traded across that table could have frosted glass. The room got quiet. The kind of quiet that usually comes right before the second body. I tapped my flipper against the metal table. "We're going to do this one layer at a time. No one leaves base without clearance. No unscheduled comms. And if I find so much as a deleted file without a good excuse, you're bunking next to the evidence lockup." Davidson opened his mouth. I raised a flipper. He closed it. Good boy. As they filed out, Reyes lingered. She gave me a look that sat somewhere between curiosity and concern. "You ever wonder," she asked, "why they let you do this job?" "All the time," I said. She tilted her head. And every time I wonder, I catch another liar." She smiled. Real this time. "Keep wondering, Doctor." Then she was gone. I stared at the empty chairs. Every one of them warm. Every one of them hiding something. Time to start throwing theories against the wall and see what sticks. Chapter 7. Herring season. The thing about red herrings? They still smell like fish. Ted Herring worked comms. Mid-30s, clean record, nervous disposition, the kind of guy who looked guilty during fire drills. He wore the same blue fleece every day and apologized when he sneezed. I didn't trust him. He was your creepy uncle everyone wondered about, but was too afraid to ask. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because he hadn't done anything noticeably right. I found him hunched over a terminal in the West Corridor, tapping keys like they might bite back. The overhead lights buzzed. So did he. "Dr. Enguin?" he said without looking. "Is this about the radio logs?" "No," I said. "But now it is." He winced. "I was just doing maintenance, routine packet audits, diagnostic sweeps. I can show you the timestamps." "Ted, you realize saying diagnostic sweeps makes it sound like you're hiding a body." "I'm not hiding anything," he squeaked. That was the thing about Ted. He always sounded like he was 2 steps away from turning state's witness. I leaned in a little. Not close enough to scare him. Just close enough to make him start talking. "I've been reviewing local comm logs," I said. "Penrose made a secure outgoing call the night before he died. That call went through your node." "That's standard protocol." "Sure, but the file's missing." He froze. "What do you mean, missing?" "I mean it's gone, wiped cleaner than a senator's browser history." He swallowed. That's not possible." "Let's pretend it is. Who else has access to your terminal?" Ted hesitated. His eyes flicked to the side, then back to me. "Reyes came in yesterday morning. Said she needed to check something." "What time?" 6:45. Penrose was already dead." He blinked. "Oh." I nodded slowly. "Ted, do you understand how this looks?" "Yes. Bad. Very bad." "Exactly." He fumbled with his tablet, pulled up a log. Wait, I think I backed up the node. Local storage only. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I just like redundancy. It makes me feel safe." Of course he did. The man probably labeled his socks. He handed me the tablet with shaking hands. There it was. The deleted file. Time-stamped. Flagged. No audio, just text. Encrypted. I sent it to Chen for decryption. "You might have just bought yourself a little credibility, Ted," I said. He nodded, rapidly. "Does that mean I'm not a suspect?" "No, Ted. It means you're a helpful suspect." I turned to leave. He slumped back into his chair, like he'd just survived a shark attack. Back in the corridor, I opened a channel to Chen. "Tell me what's in that file." "Already working on it," he said. "It's messy. Triple-layer encryption. Could take hours. I've got time. Keep me posted." I leaned against the wall, watching frost build on the vents. Ted hadn't killed anyone. I knew that. But someone had used him to cover their tracks. That kind of thing only works if you know where the tracks are. Whoever deleted that file knew Ted would back it up too, which meant this was deeper than a panic move. Someone was playing long odds. And I was about to start shortening them. Chapter 8. Outage and Outfits. The lights went out at 14:27. No warning, no flicker. Just a hard, silent plunge into blackout, like the station blinked and forgot to open its eyes again. A second later, the emergency backups kicked in, slow, grudging, like they had better things to do. Red auxiliary lights cast a dim wash down the corridor walls, bathing everything in the color of bad decisions. I didn't move. Just let the darkness settle over me like an old coat. Speaking of coats, mine was wool, gray, and draped over me like it had been borrowed from a 1950s crime scene photo. The kind with blood spatter, smoke haze, and a half-lit hallway no one walks down unless they're looking for answers or trouble. I wore a fedora too, slightly askew. People thought it was a joke until they realized I never took it off. It wasn't style. It was declaration. I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to find what doesn't. Footsteps echoed from around the bend. 2 sets. Sharp, fast. Not panicked, but close enough to it. I turned as Reyes came into view, her coat swinging, tablet in one hand, flashlight in the other. "Let me guess," I said. "You tripped over something important?" She slowed. Don't look at me. I was calibrating pH sensors when the whole system dropped dead. You always calibrate pH sensors during a diplomatic murder investigation. Better than recalibrating egos. She looked around. Is this corridor supposed to be sealed? Nope. Just then, the blast doors at either end slid shut with a hiss, followed by a mechanical clunk that sounded a lot like we'd been locked into a tomb. Reyes tested the door behind her. Nothing. She looked at me. You armed? I gave her a long, slow look. Lady, I'm wearing a trench coat and no pants. What kind of heat do you think I'm packing? She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. Okay, so we're sealed in, comms are dead, lights are low, and you're dressed like you solve crimes by talking to ghosts. Ghosts talk, I said. People lie. She leaned against the wall, folding her arms. Do you think someone triggered this to cover their tracks? Wouldn't be the first time someone pulled a plug to erase a tape. I tapped the side of my fedora. Wouldn't be the first time they failed either. She studied me. You know, you never answered. Answered what? Why you're here. Not just on this case, on this planet. This base. Why does a physicist dress like a 50s noir detective and have an actual PY license? I hesitated. Most people ask that as a joke. She didn't. Because when people lie in a place this cold, it sticks, I said. Truth melts, disappears. But lies, they fossilize. She watched me for a beat. That's supposed to be poetic? No, just functional. The lights overhead pulsed, dim, then brighter, before finally humming back to full power. The doors clicked and hissed open. We weren't trapped anymore, but someone had wanted us still. Quiet. Alone. I turned to go, then stopped cold. There, on the floor between us, tucked under the edge of a floor panel that hadn't been lifted since the last maintenance cycle, was a folded scrap of paper. Reyes bent down and picked it up. Her brow furrowed. Was this here before? No. She unfolded it. Handwriting. Sharp. Rushed. The kind of scrawl you write when you're scared or trying not to be seen. She passed it to me. 3 words. It wasn't her. I stared at it, then at Reyes. Her expression didn't change. Is this supposed to be about me? Maybe. Do you think I wrote it? No. Do you think someone wants you to think I wrote it? That one gave me pause. She took the silence as her answer and stepped past me, slipping the note back into my flipper. I didn't kill Penrose, she said. But someone sure as hell wants you to think I had a reason. She walked away. I stared at the paper. Thin. Standard station stock. The ink was smudged slightly, like it had been written with gloves, or trembling hands. Whoever left it wanted to protect her, or frame her for something worse. Either way, the note changed the shape of the game. And games like this don't end without another piece falling off the board. Chapter 9. Buried Code. I found Chen in the server alcove, buried in cables and caffeine, eyes glassy from staring at encrypted strings for too long. He looked up like I'd interrupted his last shred of sanity. You're here, he said. Hard to miss, I replied, stepping inside and knocking over a warning cone labeled Melt Zone. What do we know? He rubbed his eyes. That backup file Ted gave us, it wasn't just a message. It was a fragment of a full data package Penrose was prepping. About 600 megabytes of encrypted climate modeling, satellite dumps, and internal memos. Memos from where? Chen tapped his screen. That's the fun part. Not all of them are ours. The file includes headers and routing metadata from US climate servers, but also Russian and Chinese systems. The kind of stuff you don't access unless you have friends in cold places. So Penrose was playing diplomat and data thief. Or whistleblower. I stared at the scrolling code. Something in it felt wrong. Not technically, philosophically. Penrose hadn't come here to share knowledge. He came here to drop a bomb. "Give me something," I said. Chen pulled up a partial decryption. The first readable document was a clipped research log. Argos 12/Deep Core Sim/Entry 17. Unstable variance observed. Unscheduled emissions, spike confirmed at Ridgeline Array. Projections. Full collapse of local permafrost layer within 24 months. Suppression order received. Data must not be public. I read it twice. Once for understanding. Once for fury. Who wrote this? Chen hesitated. Penrose didn't say, but there are embedded hash signatures that trace back to Reyes's station ID that sat in the air like a fresh corpse. "Chen," I said slowly, "you said there were suppression orders?" He nodded. "Yeah. Whoever flagged this buried it so deep it wouldn't resurface for years, unless someone like Penrose pulled it out." I looked at the monitor, at Reyes's name, at the note that said it wasn't her. It always feels like you're close to the answer right before you get blindsided. "She didn't kill him," I muttered. "But she's involved, somehow." Chen looked up. "What do we do?" I slipped the note into my coat pocket, stared at the flickering terminal, and felt the cold settle into something deeper than air. "Now," I said. "Now we find out what Penrose was going to say, and we find out who couldn't let him say it." Chapter 10. The Science of Shadows. Observation is underrated. Everyone wants the big confrontation. Flashy, loud, final. But you don't get the truth from a shouting match. You get it in the pauses, the hesitations, the moments between moments, when people think no one's watching. So I watched. Reyes didn't see me trail her through the station. I'm good at that. Helps that I'm low to the ground, quiet, and most people don't think twice about a penguin in a trench coat unless he's yelling or bleeding. She left the lab wing around 1540. Not unusual. She had her tablet tucked under her arm, a clipboard in her hand, and that same focused gait. Half scientist, half soldier. She made her way to the greenhouse module, nodded at 2 passing techs, and didn't speak a word. I stayed in the main corridor, ducking behind a supply crate marked Lab E, Do Not Shake. Good advice, broadly applicable. She entered the greenhouse alone. I waited 90 seconds, then slipped through the maintenance hatch around the back. The vents in Argos are notoriously drafty. They're also surprisingly good at carrying voices. "Still too soon," she was saying. "I told him not to include that log." A pause. "No, I didn't delete it. Someone else got to it before I could stop him." Another voice responded. Low. Male. I couldn't hear the words, just tone. Firm. Cold. Not someone who gets nervous often. Reyes replied. "Look, you don't understand. If this becomes public, we all go down. Every nation at this station has a stake in keeping it quiet. You think it's about warming? It's not. It's about what's under it." That was new. I pressed closer. The vent creaked, and the conversation stopped. I didn't risk more. I backed out the hatch and returned to the corridor, heart thumping like a Geiger counter in a uranium mine. She wasn't just part of Penrose's leak. She was trying to contain it. And she wasn't working alone. I checked the hallway. Clear. Then tapped my comm. "Chen," I whispered. "Pull every research log with Reyes's access tag in the last 2 months. Filter for geology, not botany." "Geology?" he said. "She's a botanist." "Then she's growing the wrong plants." I clicked off and leaned against the wall, thinking. Reyes hadn't killed Penrose, but whoever she was talking to might have. And if they were willing to shut him up once, they'd do it again. Maybe louder this time. Chapter 11. Thin Ice. I've survived 5 high-security cover-ups, 3 poisoned conference buffets, and 1 assassination attempt involving a laser pointer, a confused drone, and a Danish ambassador with shaky ethics. But this one felt different. It started with coffee, not metaphorical, actual coffee. I don't trust station brew, so I make my own. Single cup percolator, imported grounds, filtered glacier melt. One luxury I allow myself in a place where warmth is a theory and death travels in Ziploc bags. I brewed it like always, slow, careful, meditative. Then I noticed the smell. Wrong. Too sweet. Too metallic. Not the kind of wrong you can taste. The kind of wrong you can feel in your beak. I didn't sip it. Just watched the steam curl like a warning. I ran a test strip over the rim. Standard protocol when someone's died mysteriously 2 modules over. It turned purple. Triazonol. Undetectable in most brews. Acts slow. Disrupts respiration. Slows blood flow to the brain. By the time the headaches start, you're on the floor. I dumped the mug, and I stood very, very still. Someone had been in my quarters. Someone who knew my habits. Someone who didn't want me to make it to the next chapter of this little drama we were all pretending wasn't happening. I checked the door logs. Nothing. No ID swipes. No security breach. Just like the storage room. Just like the missing chip. Just like Penrose. I reached for my coat, slid the poisoned mug into an evidence bag, and tapped my comm to Chen. "I've got a new data point," I said. "You sound calm." "I'm the calmest guy you've never successfully murdered." He paused. "Enguin, someone tried to kill you?" "Tried," I said. "Key word." He exhaled. "What do you want to do?" "Find out who's playing house guest with my nervous system. And when I do, I'm going to ask them one question." "What?" I slid the note from my coat pocket. It wasn't her. "If it wasn't Reyes," I said, "then who was it?" Because the moment someone tries to kill you, the case changes. It stops being about truth or justice or even the corpse on the table. It becomes personal. And I don't forget. Not in the cold. Chapter 12. Footprints in code. The thing about digital trails, they don't melt. Not like blood. Not like motives. Not like bodies. If you know where to look, and you've got the right clearance, stubbornness, and an unpaid systems tech who owes you a favor. Nothing stays buried forever. I found Chen in Lab C, surrounded by data stacks, half-eaten ration bars, and the soft electric hum of paranoia. He handed me a tablet like it was a confession. "These are the logs," he said. "Every access swipe, door trigger, and motion sensor ping from the last 36 hours. Any gaps?" "Only one. Your quarters. 0200 to 0340. No logs, no triggers, like the room was in sleep mode. Rooms don't sleep. Someone put the sensors under." He nodded. "That kind of override, not easy. Not impossible either. You'd need full administrative access and a reason to hide." "Start with the usual suspects," I said. "High-level users only. No techs, no assistants." He ran the filter. Names popped up. Jiang, May. Antonov, Pavel. Commander Sokolov. Dr. Li Jiang. One of them had been in my quarters. One of them wanted me dead. Chen brought up a secondary log. Manual overrides, deep tech. Stuff buried under layers of interface. Redundant backups barely touched except for diagnostics. "Found this," he said. "It's a utility ping sent at 0214 to your cabin. A fake sleep command. Tells the room to pause all monitoring for maintenance. Only, it wasn't scheduled maintenance. I looked at the terminal. The utility ping came from a terminal in Jiang's workroom. "Print it," I said. Chen hesitated. "You think it's her?" "I think it's her tablet," I replied, which means it could be anyone's hand. I slid the printout into my coat and checked my watch. 16:24. Still daylight, technically, but not the kind that warms. Outside, the wind beat the windows like it wanted in. Inside, I felt the same way. Jiang was careful, but no one's careful all the time. And now she was next on my list. Not for confrontation. Not yet. Just observation. I was getting good at that. Chapter 13. Everything that matter. I don't do this often. Laying it all out. Connecting dots out loud. Most of the time, I wait until someone's already in cuffs, or a body bag, and then let the truth float to the surface like oil on a frozen pond. But this one needed clarity. Before someone else ended up with a toe tag and a blank obituary. I called Chen to the old comms room. No cameras, no logs, no interruptions. Just 2 busted chairs, a rusted console, and the smell of old electronics and new fear. He sat. I didn't. "All right," I said. "Time to bring you up to speed." Chen nodded. "I've been waiting." I pulled out a notepad. Paper. Real. Hard to erase. 1. Penrose was killed in a locked room. Poison in the coffee. 1 missing data chip. 1 lipstick-stained mug hidden behind the AV console. The chip never turned up, but the file Ted backed up matched encrypted fragments on Penrose's personal system. 2. The note. It wasn't her. Was planted. It's a distraction. Meant to either protect Reyes or frame her. I don't know which yet. But whoever left it wanted to influence the investigation without leaving fingerprints. 3. Reyes was involved. But not directly. She argued with someone in the greenhouse, someone male. They discussed Penrose's leak. She was angry, protective, scared, but not guilty. Not of murder. 4. The data Penrose pulled included classified research from 3 nations. Something about permafrost destabilization. Not just climate risk, something buried beneath it. Something they were suppressing. Something dangerous enough to kill over. 5. Someone tried to poison me. Triazinol in my coffee. Same method as Penrose. Entry logs wiped. Sensors disabled. Access ping sent from Mei Jiang's terminal at 0214, but there's no guarantee she sent it. Could be someone spoofing her credentials or using her gear while she slept. Chen leaned forward, face pale. "So, who do you think it is?" I looked at the names again. 4 possibilities, I said. All with motive, means, and access. Jiang. Smart enough to erase logs. Has full admin clearance. If she's guilty, she's brilliant. If she's not, she's being used. Antonov. Logistics. Handles shipments. Could have smuggled something onto base. Could have moved bodies, faked records, bypassed physical alarms. Li Qiang. High-level clearance. Political stake in keeping everything buried. A diplomatic solution to a terminal problem. Sokolov. Security. Paranoid. Old school. If anyone had the ability to make things vanish without a trace, it's him. Chen shook his head. What now? Now? I slid the paper into my coat. Now we lay a trap. He blinked. A trap? I nodded. We leak the truth, selectively. Let the killer think we're about to publish Penrose's findings. Give them a deadline, force a move. Won't that be dangerous? Of course it'll be dangerous, Chen. That's how you catch someone who kills in the dark. You light a fire and see who runs to put it out. He swallowed. And if we're wrong? I adjusted my coat, tapped my fedora into place. then someone's going to try and kill me again. Pause. And this time, I added, I'll be ready. Chapter 14. Jiang, Scrambled. Mei Jiang hadn't slept in 29 hours. She'd tried. Closed her eyes, slowed her breath, recited code in her head like prayer, but nothing stuck. Not rest, not silence, not peace. Her body was tired. Her mind was wired. She sat cross-legged on the bunk in her quarters, tablet screen resting across her knees, ambient heater humming at her feet. The air inside Argos station always smelled slightly of aluminum and antiseptic, but tonight it tasted like tension. Too still. Too clean. Like someone had wiped down the crime scene but left the body behind. She hadn't left her room in 4 hours. Not since Dr. Enguin had passed her in the corridor. Gave her that look. The one like he was already solving you, piece by piece. It hadn't been hostile, just patient. Like he already knew the shape of the answer, and he was waiting for the facts to catch up. Her fingers danced across the tablet screen, tracing back access logs again. 02, 00203400, anomaly. System ping from her terminal. Manual override to sleep a secure sensor node. No trace in the admin console, just a shadow of a command. The kind of digital residue only someone trained to look would see. She hadn't issued the command. She'd been asleep, but someone had used her station credentials while her door was locked and her tablet was charging on her desk. That wasn't just a frame job. That was personal. And it meant someone had been inside her quarters. She glanced at the sealed thermos on her table. It had sat untouched since 0400. Lately, she didn't trust anything she hadn't sealed herself. Her food, her drinks, her own damn keyboard. The greenhouse logs glowed from the top of the screen. She tapped the folder open. 4 entries. Penrose. Time stamped over 3 nights. Unscheduled. Unannounced. The last one was the night before he died. Each entry included a sensor spike. Power draw from a maintenance subgrid that should have been dormant. Zone C7 deep core interface. Jiang frowned. C7 was below the lab levels, part of the original infrastructure, sealed off after the station upgrade. Obsolete, untouched, or at least it should have been. She brought up the internal schematic. There it was, an old survey corridor below the geothermal stack, connected to early permafrost testing tunnels, abandoned, unlit, unstaffed. She tapped again. The file opened. A photo. Grainy. Low light. Blurry. Penrose had taken it from a portable station drone. It showed what looked like a split in the ice, but the shape inside the crack wasn't natural. It was curved, hollow, constructed. Metal. Not geological, not organic, not in the records. She magnified the image, tried to adjust the light. No good. She knew what this meant. Or maybe just enough to be scared. Penrose had found something. Something buried under the permafrost. Something old, and not part of any international project on file. She closed the image. Her hands were shaking. Not from cold. She should have sent the data to Jiang. That's what was expected. Her role here was clear. Monitor, report, contain, and if necessary, erase. But instead, she stared at the file for several seconds, then deleted it. Not from loyalty, not from fear of him, but because she knew if it was real, if that shape in the ice was what she feared, then Penrose had already paid for digging too deep. And she wasn't going to follow him into the dark. Not yet. She leaned back on the bunk, tablet resting on her chest. The note. The one Enguin had found. It wasn't her. Still haunted her. She hadn't written it. But she wished she had. Someone wanted her protected, or at least delayed. and someone else wanted her erased. She rubbed her eyes, stared at the ceiling, and whispered to no one. I didn't kill him, but the station didn't care. Argos station was built on lies, ice, and compromise. It didn't need to believe her. It only needed her gone. Chapter 15. Bait the ice. Setting a trap isn't about being clever. It's about being quiet, careful, controlled. You don't catch a killer by shouting down hallways or waving evidence like a flag. You do it by making them feel safe again. Just for a moment. Safe enough to come back to the scene of the crime and clean up their fingerprints, real or digital. Then you catch them in the act of their own undoing. I started with a lie. Chen helped. He didn't like it, but he understood the game. The kind of trap we were setting doesn't just snag the guilty. It shakes the innocent too. But that's how you find the ones who flinch for the wrong reasons. We seated the bulletin at 0007 hours. Quiet update. No alerts. Just a system-wide log restoration report pushed into the background diagnostic feed, right where the smart ones would go looking. Automatic restoration complete. Deleted security logs recovered. Analysis in progress. File queue. Cold storage /lab dome /corridor feeds /private quarters potential breach flagged at timestamp match. Penrose terminal greater than suspect access road. ID pending. No names, no details. Just enough to start a fire in someone's chest. If they thought I had the files, they'd act. If they knew I didn't, they'd want to make sure I never got them. And if they were bluffing, I'd find that out the hard way. I left my quarters unlocked. Just barely. The kind of unlocked that says someone made a mistake, not someone's expecting company. Inside, I staged the bait. Desk lamp on low, the evidence bag with the poisoned mug laid out like a centerpiece. Tablet open, displaying a security log file with the words, "Identity match pending," highlighted in yellow. A lie inside a lie. I turned off the main lights, sat in the chair facing the door, pulled the fedora low, let the trench coat swallow my outline. I wasn't going to jump anyone. I wasn't going to shout. I was just going to watch and wait. The first hour passed like molasses in permafrost. Nothing. Then a creak in the ventilation. Could have been heat settling. Could have been nerves. Could have been both. Chen buzzed once on the silent channel at 0324. A soft vibration on my comm band. Motion sensor trip. Hallway 4. Heading your way. No ID. I didn't respond. The wind howled beyond the outer wall, the kind of sound that makes even ghosts feel like they're eavesdropping. At 0327, the corridor outside my door flashed with a soft shadow. Movement. Controlled. No wasted steps. Whoever it was wasn't panicked. They were rehearsed. The door handle shifted, clicked, paused, then turned. The airlock hissed, and the door slid open just far enough for someone to slip through. They didn't rush. They eased in, slow and careful. A figure. Low hood, no visible tools, gloved hands, standard station boots. They moved with the silence of someone who'd done this before, or at least believed they could. They didn't look around. They went straight to the desk. I didn't move. I barely breathed. They scanned the mug, the tablet, reached for the log file, paused, tensed. They knew. Too late. I flipped on the desk lamp with a soft click. It spilled gold across the figure's back. They froze. "Sit down," I said. Calm, measured. Or don't, but either way, you're staying. They didn't speak. Just slowly turned to face me. And there, in the light, not who I expected. Not Sokolov, not Jiang, not Antonov, Reyes. Her face was pale, not with fear, with resignation, like she hadn't come to finish the job. She'd come to explain something first. And just like that, The trap had caught something real, something complicated, something alive. Chapter 16. Cracks in the ice. She didn't flinch when I turned on the light. That told me something. So did the way she stood, arms loose, weight balanced, not defensive. She wasn't here to attack. She was here to confess, or lie. The two are closer than people think. "Sit down," I said again. She didn't, just stepped aside, slow and deliberate, and let the light catch her face. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were sharp, tired but not broken. "You left the door open," she said. "I leave a lot of things open," I replied. "Wounds, questions, investigations. You expected someone else." "I always do." Silence stretched between us, the kind that pulls like wire and cuts just as easy. She looked at the mug on the desk. Her voice was quiet. "That was meant for you?" I nodded once. "And you think I—" "No," I said. "I think you know who did." That hit. Not hard, but it landed. She stepped closer but didn't sit. Just hovered near the edge of the desk like she didn't want to leave prints. "I didn't kill Penrose," she said. "You keep saying that. Because it's true." "Then tell me who did." She hesitated. Not the kind of hesitation that says I'm lying. The kind that says I'm about to ruin my own life. She glanced at the tablet. "You faked the logs." "Of course I did. You're here, aren't you?" That pulled a dry, bitter smile from her. "You always this charming during murder investigations?" "Only when someone poisons my coffee." She looked down. "When Penrose came to me," she said, "he didn't want help. He wanted absolution. He thought if someone else knew what he found, he'd be safe, that the information would protect him. It didn't. No. It got him killed. And what did he find?" She didn't answer right away. She reached into her coat, slowly, and pulled out a small storage drive. Slim, black, no label. She set it on the desk, inches from the mug. I didn't touch it. "What's on it?" I asked. "Proof." "Of what?" She looked me dead in the eye. "That the thing under the ice isn't natural, and that all three nations agreed to hide it, to bury it, even when it started affecting the surrounding permafrost, even when it started leaking. I filed that word away. "You think Penrose died because of this?" "I know he did. He was going to present it. Force an international incident. Maybe more. And you?" "I tried to stop him from doing it publicly, not to protect myself, to protect everyone else, to keep panic from making things worse. But then someone got ahead of both of us." I leaned in. "Who?" She swallowed. Her throat moved once, twice. Then she said it. "I think it was Jiang. Dr. Li Jiang. The diplomatic face, the perfect smile, the man who'd made three nations shake hands in the cold. And possibly the man who'd decided murder was safer than exposure." I finally picked up the drive. Heavy, cold, like it knew what it was carrying. "You should have come to me sooner," I said. "I couldn't trust you," she replied. "Do you now?" "No," she said, "but I'm out of options." "Fair." I looked at her again. She wasn't shaking. That scared me more than if she had been. Chapter 17. Readout. I didn't open the drive right away. First, I checked it for traps. Basic protocol. People who kill to keep secrets don't always stop at the first attempt. No trackers, no virus. No fail-safe payload waiting to burn the file the moment the wrong hands touched it. Just data. Cold, clean, and very, very dangerous. I slipped it into my private terminal, the one I don't connect to the station net. the one I built from spare parts and suspicion. It hummed to life with a faint chime, the kind you usually hear before something breaks, or someone does. A folder opened. Project Deepcore. Inside, raw climate data, sensor logs, buried communications, and 3 audio files labeled with single letters. I started with the files. File A. Voice log. Penrose. Subject is stable, still dormant. Interference with local magnetic fields observed. Instruments behaving erratically. Time drift detected in seismic pulses. Commander Lee has ordered suppression. Wants this under wraps until diplomatic climate improves. I disagreed, vocally. They'll come for me. I know they will. If you're hearing this, it means I failed. It means it woke up. Woke up? I paused the file and stared at the screen. Whatever Penrose found, he didn't think it was just buried. He thought it was alive. The second file played automatically. File B. Extracted radio pattern. No voice, just static. Then, a rhythm. Not mechanical, not natural. 4 tones, repeat, distorted, disturbing. Chen once said the human brain tries to find music in noise. Mine found intention. I skipped to the third file. File C. Internal memo, Chinese delegation, redacted. Subject must not be allowed to surface. The diplomatic risk is secondary to the psychological one. Civilian populations would not tolerate the knowledge. Proposal. Controlled station failure. Blame environmental collapse. Remove witnesses. Clean site. I exhaled. Slow. This wasn't just a murder. This was a cleanup plan. Penrose had found something under the ice. Something ancient. Possibly artificial. Possibly not built by any of us. He wanted to tell the world. Jiang wanted to shut him down. And now if Reyes was right, they were cleaning house. I backed up the files. Twice. Stored them on 2 separate drives. One I hid inside a busted neutrino sensor in Lab E. The other I slipped into my coat lining. Then I powered down the terminal, slipped the original drive back into its case, and locked it in a cryo canister under false labeling. Contents. Glacial pollen samples. Do not disturb. Perfect. Outside, the wind howled like it knew. Inside, the station was still. Too still. I tapped my comm. Chen, we need a backup route out of here. If this thing goes south, we're not going to be welcome much longer. He paused. You found something, didn't you? No, I said. I found everything. Chapter 18. Diplomacy by other means. I didn't make an appointment. I just showed up at Jiang's quarters and knocked twice, lightly. Enough to be polite. Not enough to ask permission. The door hissed open after a few seconds. He stood inside, sleeves rolled, collar unbuttoned, tablet glowing faintly on the table behind him. No guards, no aides. Just him. He smiled like a man who hadn't just been caught with a hand on the knife. Dr. Enguin, he said, voice warm. To what do I owe the honor? You already know. He held my gaze. Just long enough to make me wonder if he was going to play innocent or confess with style. I'm afraid you'll need to be more specific, he said smoothly, stepping aside. Come in. I did. His quarters were neat. Every object had a place, the kind of precision that hides chaos beneath it. Teacup still steaming on a warmer. No alcohol, no clutter, just order. The door closed behind me. I didn't sit. You authorized a data suppression, I said. Internal memo, redacted sender, but the language is yours. You write like a scalpel, clean, surgical, and just shy of deniable. He folded his arms. You're referring to the deep core anomaly. Nice phrase, I said. Most people would just say alien structure under the ice, but sure, let's keep it clinical. His eyes didn't change. I didn't come here to ask, I continued. I came to tell you that I have Penrose's data, all of it. The logs, the seismic reports, the signal files, even the part where someone proposed eliminating the station to keep the story quiet. Jiang didn't move. You poisoned him, I said. Or you gave the order. Same thing. He had a voice, and you needed it gone. Still nothing. Then someone came for me, tried to finish the cleanup, didn't work. He finally spoke. I didn't order your death, he said. If I had, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Try that again, I said, but with less charm. A pause. Then he stepped toward the window, looking out over the frozen horizon. Penrose wasn't just reckless, he said. He was naive. He believed the world deserved the truth, no matter the consequences. That's the kind of thinking that starts wars. Sounds like you're defending murder. I'm explaining context. There are things under that ice that shouldn't be found. Things our nations barely understand. And if civilians knew what we knew, what's waking up down there? He shook his head. They wouldn't run. They'd dig faster. I watched him closely. His body language was precise, intentional, but not clean, not entirely. There was weight on him. The memo, I said. You didn't write it alone. No. Who helped? That, he said, turning back to face me, is classified. Not anymore. You think exposing this will save people? I think truth matters more than control. Then you're the most dangerous person in this station. We stood in silence. Two cold men. One colder truth. I don't want to kill you, Dr. Enguin, he said quietly. I don't even want you silenced. But if that data leaves this base, the people I answer to will react. Swiftly. Globally. Let them, I said. His lip twitched. Do what you feel you must, he said, stepping aside. But if you make this loud, don't expect to be the only body they leave behind. I walked out without another word. No threats, no handcuffs, no answers. Just the understanding between two predators that peace is often just the space between two wars. Chapter 19. This was not in the lab manual. I didn't get 10 steps from Jiang's quarters before the lights went red. Not emergency red. All systems critical red. The kind of red that screams across every speaker, like the building itself just swore. Warning, internal breach, lab containment failure. Please remain calm while systems reboot. I stopped, turned, and said, out loud, to Nopa 1, of course it's Lab E. Chin's voice pinged over my comm. Frantic, breathless, and already 5 seconds behind the crisis. Enguin, something's breached the cryo storage. It blew through the false wall behind the deep core module. Whatever was under the ice, it's not buried anymore. I didn't ask how. I didn't ask what. I just turned and ran. Now, running is a strong word for what I do. I have short legs, no human knees. My trench coat is not built for speed, but adrenaline is a miracle drug, and fear is one hell of a sled dog. The corridor buckled under my feet. Lights burst above me, showering sparks onto the floor. I passed 2 engineers screaming about coolant leaks, a Chinese diplomat climbing into a vent, and a coffee machine currently on fire. Good. Maybe it finally brewed something strong. I rounded the corner to Lab E, just in time for the bulkhead to explode outward in a shower of metal, frost, and something wet I refused to identify. Smoke poured into the hall. Alarms wailed. A pressure door slammed down behind me and sealed us in. Inside the lab, chaos. One of the cryo canisters had cracked open. Not mine. Not the pollen samples, but one of the real ones. The kind labeled with black tape and no explanation. And whatever had been inside had legs now. or tendrils. 3 station personnel were already down. Not dead, yet, but twitching on the floor like they'd been tasered through a philosophy degree. I saw Chen across the room, back against the server rack, pointing at something I couldn't see yet. Then I saw it. It wasn't big, just wrong. The kind of wrong you don't describe. You just feel. Like a broken melody or a smile in a dream that shouldn't be there. It pulsed as it moved. An asymmetric shudder. Limbs. Were those limbs? Dragging across tile. No eyes, no mouth. Just shifting tissue like it had been sculpted by someone who hated anatomy and good taste. "Back!" I shouted. "Everyone out!" "No exit!" Chen yelled. "Containment sealed the whole level." Perfect. A containment breach, and I was wearing a wool trench coat with no sidearm. My emergency plan involved sarcasm and improvised explosives. I grabbed a stool and flung it at the creature. It hit. The thing shrieked. A horrible, high-pitched, dial-up modem of death sound that rattled my teeth and made one of the fluorescent lights explode for no reason. I ducked. Chen scrambled toward the vent shaft, dragging one of the unconscious techs behind him. I slipped across the floor, nearly lost my footing. Stupid flippers. And jammed open the manual panel for the auxiliary override. Takes a key card. Takes 2 key cards, actually. I only had one. Then, the beast lunged, and I did the only thing that made sense. I body-checked it. Head on. Full penguin. Feathers and all. I don't recommend it. We both hit the far wall. I rebounded off something squishy and landed on top of the fire suppression control. The alarm triggered. A cloud of halon gas exploded across the room. The thing screeched again. This time, it burned. It recoiled, shriveling, smoking, dragging itself back into the darkness like a high school memory you weren't ready to deal with. I pulled the second keycard from the floor. Must have belonged to one of the twitching engineers, and slammed it into the override. The door opened. Chen hauled the tech out first. I followed, trench coat singed, hat dented, breathing like I'd just boxed a jellyfish inside a freezer. The door sealed behind us. The sirens cut off. Silence. I sat on the floor. Cold metal beneath me. Smoke in the air. Chen looked over. "You okay?" "No." He blinked. "Did you fight it?" "Yes." "With what?" "Fear and regret." Chapter 20. The Thing Beneath the Ice. Reyes found me half collapsed against a med station. One wing holding a melted ice pack to my beak. The other loosely gripping a busted fire extinguisher like a war trophy. "Jesus," she said. "You look like you lost a fight with a forklift." "I won, actually," I said. "Depending on how you define win and whether or not I'm bleeding internally." She knelt in front of me and gently pried the ice pack away. Her hand was warm, steady. More comfort than I expected, especially from someone I'd suspected of murder less than 2 chapters ago. "Did you see it?" she asked. "I did more than see it. I headbutted it." Her eyes widened. "You what?" "It turns out its weakness was halon gas and low standards for breathing." She exhaled, slow and shaky, then sat beside me, back against the cold metal wall. For a moment, we didn't speak, just listened to the distant alarms being silenced, the occasional panicked footstep, the sound of Argos station pretending everything was fine. Then she said, "It's not the only one." I turned my head, slowly. "Do you want to repeat that for the class?" She pulled a tablet from her jacket, cracked screen, reeks of panic. She thumbed it open and passed it to me. A file was already queued, marked Argos-B4 sublayer anomalies, red zone. Penrose never figured it out, she said. He thought it was a single structure, something buried and dormant. But the data shows multiple temperature shifts in different locations across the bedrock layer. And last week? She paused. Her voice dropped. One of them moved. I stared at the file. 6 nodes. 4 glowing red. 1 blinking amber. 1 marked black. Let me guess, I said. Black means we don't talk about it. No, she said. Black means it's gone. As in, not on the scans anymore. Gone where? She looked at me. I wished she hadn't. Up. We sat in silence again. Why the hell didn't you tell me this earlier? Because you'd try to stop it, she said. And because you'd stay behind when it came time to run. She wasn't wrong. I handed the tablet back. How many people know? Me. You. Maybe 3 others. Jiang's probably seen part of this, but he doesn't know the full spread. Or if he does, he's not acting like it. He's still pushing silence. Then he doesn't understand what this is. What is it, Reyes? She hesitated. Her voice softened. I don't know. That's what scares me. She turned to me. Her expression had changed. No longer just determined. Something more personal. Vulnerable. I didn't come to Argos to bury secrets. I came here to find something worth saving. Congratulations, I said. You found a Lovecraft horror from the void and a sarcastic penguin in a trench coat. She smirked, just barely. One of those is growing on me. We didn't say which. Chapter 21. Up is the only way out. Getting to the surface comms wasn't part of the original plan. Of course, neither was headbutting a sentient horror worm or falling into something resembling trust with a human botanist who smelled like wet pine and unfinished sentences. But here we were. The surface relay tower sat on the northern ridge of Argos Station. Wind blasted. Half buried. Technically non-essential, since the internal comms were supposed to be sufficient for operations. Spoiler, they weren't. Especially when someone, Jiang, had started scrubbing files and routing internal logs into a dead-end loop so fast it could have earned frequent flyer miles. Reyes led the way. Tablet clutched to her chest like a priest with the last Bible. She'd decrypted Penrose's final bundle of data during the medbay chaos. I carried the only 2 surviving backups in a watertight container shoved into my coat pocket. The irony of entrusting mankind's salvation to a penguin in a fedora was not lost on me. It was a long walk through short halls. We didn't speak. Not until the final airlock. You're sure we can't send this through internal systems? She asked. Not unless you want the whole package rerouted to Jiang's inbox and followed by a polite assassination. And you're sure you trust me? No, I said. But I trust that you're angry. And people who are angry about the right things usually make good decisions. Or at least, interesting ones. She didn't smile this time. The final hatch resisted. Ice buildup. I smacked the control panel with a stiff wing. Old maintenance trick. The door groaned open, and we were hit with wind like a physical slap. Antarctic air doesn't bite. It gnaws, slow and cruel, until it gets bone deep. Reyes winced, pulled her coat tighter. I adjusted my fedora. It immediately tried to fly away. We made our way toward the tower. The storm hadn't reached whiteout yet, but the visibility was down to about 20 feet. Shadows moved across the ice, distant, shifting. Maybe snowdrifts, maybe not. I hate this, she muttered. Cold? No, knowing things. This is why people burn libraries. We reached the base of the relay and found the hatch partially open. Not a good sign. Reyes looked at me. Trap? She asked. Only one way to find out. I ducked inside first. The interior of the tower was tight. Metal stairs wrapped around a frozen core of steel and cables. It smelled like ozone and neglect. No lights, no power. Someone had cut the backup battery cables. No wind damage, no animal claw marks. A clean slice, professional, quiet. She climbed up behind me, flashlight bouncing off walls like we were spelunking through the apocalypse. At the top, the console sat dark, but intact. "I can bypass it," she said, kneeling. I watched the stairwell, one hand on my comm. No signal, just static and dread. Reyes plugged in the data stick. Lights blinked. Then the screen buzzed to life. She navigated the menu like she'd built it herself. "We're online. Bandwidth's weak, but enough to transmit encrypted, maybe 3 minutes of connection. That's all we need." The wind screamed outside. And then, footsteps. From below. Heavy, deliberate. Boots on metal. I turned. No visuals yet, just sound. And presence. I pulled a crowbar from my coat. A keepsake from a past life. I'd meant to use it for vent panels. Now it might serve another function. Reyes hit send. Upload started. "Great," I said. "Let's see if we live long enough to finish it." Chapter 22. The Boy in the Server Room. Chen wasn't built for heroism. He was built for diagnostics, systems maintenance, caffeine dependence, and being barely tolerable under pressure. He liked servers. They didn't lie or kill people. So when the systems started glitching, again, and the emergency protocols tried to reboot themselves into a cascade failure, he knew two things. Someone was sabotaging the comms relay. Enguin and Reyes were in the tower. And if they didn't finish uploading whatever it was they'd found, this whole base was going to be turned into a glorified ice crypt with excellent diplomatic deniability. He pulled up the relay diagnostics. One line blinked red. Remote power source disconnected. Upload unstable. "Come on," he muttered. "Don't you dare die on me." He opened the admin terminal, tried to reroute backup power to the tower's transmitter. Access denied. Manual override required from external comms control. He stared at the screen. That meant trekking through the old comms annex. The one they sealed after the last solar storm fried half the wiring and a technician's eyebrows. It wasn't on any regular patrol path. No one would be watching it. Unless someone was, and if they were, they'd be guarding it. Because that was the only other way to stop an external signal from getting out. He grabbed his parka, pulled the old taser off the wall, the one that barely worked but made a hell of a noise when you shook it, and stuffed 3 glow sticks into his pocket like it made him look professional. Then he hesitated. A voice on the radio, garbled. Low, not station frequency, not human cadence. Like someone was pretending to speak and hadn't gotten the vowels quite right. He froze, then switched to line 9. Emergency short range. Still nothing. "Damn it, Enguin," he muttered. "I told you not to headbutt things that might be older than Europe." The only light in the server room now was the flicker of packet transmissions. Small bursts. Failing signal. Uplink in progress, 31%. He didn't wait. He ran. Not because he was brave. Because someone had to make sure that upload finished. And because if something was trying to stop it from the outside, he'd make sure they had something to trip over inside. Chapter 23. 1 bar of signal. 2 people who don't want to die. The stairs creaked again. 3rd time. Same weight. Same pace. Whoever was coming wasn't rushing. They were enjoying it. Reyes didn't turn from the console. Her fingers danced across the keys like her life depended on it. Because it did. "Uploads at 47%, she said. "I'm stabilizing the buffer. Just keep us breathing." "I'm doing my best," I said, adjusting my grip on the crowbar. "You'd be surprised how many things you can solve with a penguin in pure spite." Another step. She glanced at the stairwell. "You think it's Jiang?" "No." "Antonov?" "No." "Then who?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure it was a who anymore. I took a few steps forward, careful, positioning myself between the hatch and the narrow stairs. The air was getting colder, not from the outside, from the inside. That slow, unnatural chill like the temperature was deciding to drop. Then the first shadow moved around the stairwell curve, and I stopped breathing. It was human-shaped, sort of. Too tall, too smooth. Limbs just a little too symmetrical, like it had been built based on a memory of people from someone who had never actually seen one up close. No breath, no sound, just motion. I didn't wait. I threw the crowbar. It clanged off the figure's shoulder with a loud bang. Metal on metal, and the thing didn't flinch. "Oh, good," I said. "You're one of those." It stepped fully into the room. It wore a station parka. Reyes's name was stitched on the chest. But it wasn't her. The mouth was wrong. The proportions were wrong. The eyes, no shine, just matte black, like plastic beads stuck in raw clay. It tilted its head, mimicked me. Then it spoke. Not with words, with a voice like Penrose's, but chopped up, out of order. "Stop! Isn't time for... Listen!" Reyes screamed, not out of fear, out of rage. She pulled a portable soldering torch from her belt and lit it. "You don't get to wear my name," she growled, and she charged. I had time to think. I'm falling in love with this woman before the tower filled with noise and fire. She drove the torch toward the figure's chest. It shrieked, feedback loop sound, distorted and digital, like someone dragging a corrupted MP3 through a wood chipper. It swatted her aside. I lunged, tackled it from the side. We hit the console, slid across the icy floor. My trench coat tore, my shoulder popped. I bit it. Yes, bit it. I'm a penguin. I don't have fists. The thing screamed again. Reyes was up. She grabbed a frozen wrench and slammed it into the console panel, not to break it, but to shove the antenna calibration back into position. A green light blinked. Upload, 88%. The figure twisted beneath me, limbs convulsing, mouth spasming between Penrose's voice and mine. You can't, won't, stay, forget. I leaned in close. Wrong penguin. Then Reyes hit it with the fire extinguisher, and the thing, whatever it was, toppled backwards through the broken hatch and fell. We didn't hear it land. Didn't mean it was gone. Just meant it was waiting. The console beeped. Upload complete. Signal sent. Reyes collapsed against the wall, breathing hard, burnt hair curling at the ends. I sat beside her, shoulder screaming, beak bruised. We stared at the screen. No cheers. No explosions. Just a single line of confirmation. Transmission delivered. Global Node 12. Archive Copenhagen. Unconfirmed status. Reyes turned to me. Now what? Now, I said. We find out if anyone still believes in truth. She nodded. Then very quietly, she leaned in and rested her head on my shoulder, and I didn't move. Because for one cold, quiet moment, we'd won. Chapter 24. The Annex isn't empty. Chen regretted almost everything. He regretted agreeing to Enguin's plan. He regretted leaving his server room without proper footwear. He regretted not updating his will or password encryption routine. But most of all, He regretted entering the old comms annex through a half-burnt side door labeled, "Do not enter." Especially you, Chen. He hated how personal that felt. The annex hadn't been used in years. After the solar storm hit, it had been patched with foil, duct tape, and exactly zero optimism. It smelled like burned plastic and ambition, but it had one thing going for it: a manual relay switch that could still push power to the surface comms tower if someone, say, had sabotaged the main relay battery to prevent two specific people from sending out an inconvenient truth about buried alien nightmares. So here he was, in the dark, alone, holding a flickering emergency light, a taser that sounded like a nervous cricket, and a stomach full of ration bars and dread. The override panel was down the hall, and the thing, whatever it was somewhere nearby. Not the same one Enguin fought. That one had gone out the tower window like a bad decision. No, this one made no noise at all. Chen had caught it once, just a glimpse. His own face, reflected back in a sheet of shattered plexiglass. Not distorted, not exaggerated. Just wrong. Like someone had printed a copy of him from memory and run out of ink halfway through the eyes. He moved slowly, past the old locker room, past the decommissioned oxygen tank, past the vent that definitely wasn't supposed to be whistling like that. Every shadow felt thick, like it knew. He reached the override box, pried it open with a screwdriver, and began hot wiring in a patch cable from his portable power unit. Fumbling, hands shaking, sweat freezing to his temple. Come on, he muttered. Behind him, a footstep. Soft, deliberate. He didn't turn, just worked faster. Not looking at you, he said aloud. Just working. You do you, I do me, and we both go home happy. Silence. Then, a whisper. Chen. He froze. That was his voice. Not from his mouth. From behind him. I hate this, he whispered. I really hate this. He twisted the final wire. The power box sparked. The switch clicked green, and the lights in the tower above surged to life. Just in time for the final data burst to push through before the auto shutdown engaged. But Chen didn't stop to celebrate. He pulled the taser from his belt, turned, and fired blind. The sound it made was not human. The flash illuminated a figure with his face, but arms too long, posture too relaxed, and no teeth where there should have been teeth. The taser crackled. The thing screamed. Chen ran, tripped over a loose pipe, crawled, slammed the door behind him, hit the manual lock, pounded the override, and collapsed in the corridor, gasping. Above him, the power indicator showed signal sent, and below him, the door to the annex pounded once, then stopped. Chapter 25. The Man with the Broken Mask. Director Jiang sat alone in Ops Center 1, watching the station die in real time. The monitors glowed like confessionals, each screen showing a different piece of his failure. Lab E, sealed and scorched. Sublayer thermals, redder than they should be. Comms tower, signal confirmed outbound. Chen, alive when he shouldn't be. Dr. P. Enguin, still breathing. He exhaled, slowly, carefully, as if the wrong breath might make the entire station collapse just to spite him. His tea had gone cold. Not that he drank it anyway. It was there for the ritual, the image. Jiang didn't get angry, didn't panic, didn't shout. He managed. Until now. The logs confirmed it. Reyes and Enguin had successfully pushed Penrose's data packet to Global Node 12. That meant at least one off-site relay had it. One archive. One chance for someone, anyone, to ask the right questions. He'd underestimated them, not their intelligence. That was easy to spot. No, he'd misjudged their resilience. The tenacity of a botanist with too much grief and a penguin with nothing to lose. He tapped a control panel, pulled up the personnel manifest, cross-referenced it against current biometric scans. Something didn't match. 2 people on the manifest had no vital signs, but were still walking around. The mimics weren't just alive, they were multiplying. The protocol said containment. The manual said isolation. The sponsor said plausible deniability. But those were all ideas designed by people who didn't believe this would actually happen. Jiang stood, straightened his coat, reached beneath the console and unlocked the case he hadn't touched in 12 years. Inside, a revolver, polished to a mirror finish. He loaded it with mechanical precision. 1 round, then another, then 6. It clicked shut with a sound like judgment. He placed it beside the cold tea, then leaned into the console and opened a secured channel. 2. Argos Ops Level 0. Private encryption. Channel Phoenix. Containment compromised. Surface data breach confirmed. Proceeding to Protocol M. Recommend full sanitization by midnight UTC. Begin countdown. He cut the line. No response came. He didn't expect one. He turned toward the door, paused. Then, softly, he said to no one, "I tried." And for the first time in a long, long while, he sounded like he meant it. Chapter 26. Doom. Automated. They were halfway back to the main station tunnel when the voice came over the intercom. Calm, soft, female. The kind of voice you'd expect to hear offering coffee in a hospital lobby, not promising genocide. Sanitization Protocol M will initiate at 0000 UTC. Please secure all classified data and report to Sublevel 3 for final containment procedures. This is not a drill. Repeat. Sanitization Protocol M. "Stop walking," Enguin said. Reyes did. They stood in the access tube, wind still tugging at their coats, the lights above flickering like they'd caught the mood. "Did she say?" Reyes began. "Yep," Enguin cut in. "Sanitization. Protocol M." "What the hell is Protocol M?" "I don't know," he said, adjusting his hat against the wind. "But if they were planning to give out medals and hugs, I doubt they'd use a robotic voice and a 12-hour timer." Reyes turned pale. 12 hours, she said. "Until what? Explosives? Contaminant release? Station implosion?" "Could be all 3, he said. "Government types love redundancy." They started walking again, faster now, boots crunching on frost-slick metal. Inside the main corridor, the temperature was dropping. Not just outside air cold, system failure cold. Argos was bleeding heat like it had sprung a philosophical leak. Reyes stopped at the junction toward the labs. "We need to find Chen. And probably smack him gently for doing something heroic," Enguin said. "Preferably with cocoa or chloroform." She cracked a smile, small, tight, but there. Then her comm beeped. A message. From Chen. Text only. No voice, no traceable ping. Just 3 words. "It's not Jiang." They stared at the screen. "What does that mean?" she whispered. "I think it means we've got more than one villain in this telenovela," Enguin said. "And someone just set the set on fire." He looked down the long hall. Lights flickering. Doors sealed. Argos was holding its breath. Reyes adjusted her gloves. "Do we run?" He shook his head. "No, we go deeper. We find Chen. We break open whatever's left of the core databank, and we drag the truth out by its ankles if we have to. And then?" "Then," he said, tightening the belt on his trench coat, "we ruin someone's career. Maybe Jiang's, maybe God's. Depends on who's in charge down here." They started moving. Behind them, the intercom clicked on again. T-minus 11 hours, 42 minutes. Initiating internal scrub. Containment priority level, black. External communication channels, disabled. This is not a drill. Reyes turned to him as they moved. Tell me something hopeful. Enguin thought for a beat. Then said, I'm wearing my second best hat, so things can still get worse. And they kept walking into the dark. Chapter 27. The Last Loyal Man. Jiang moved through the halls like a surgeon making peace with the tumor. Everything felt slower now, more silent. Even the station systems responded with a strange reverence, as if Argos itself understood what was about to happen. He carried the revolver in one hand, the key to the M-level override in the other. No one stopped him. There weren't many people left to stop him. The science team had been reduced to a handful of trembling postdocs who'd barricaded themselves in Cryo Lab 2. Sokolov had gone quiet, probably already dead or worse. Reyes and the damn penguin were loose somewhere in the sublevels, no doubt plotting a counterstroke laced with snark and recklessness. But Jiang had the keys. Sanitization Protocol M had been designed as a last resort failsafe, something to be used only if the mission had been utterly compromised. It was never meant to be activated by a human decision. It was meant to be automatic. But there's always a workaround if you're the one who built the back door. He reached the core operations vault. No signage, no biometrics. Just a 7-digit code punched into a rusted panel with keys that hadn't been touched in a decade. The door hissed open like it was exhaling its last breath. Inside, a terminal, a seat, a case bolted to the wall. He sat, opened the case. Inside, a sleek black device about the size of a lunchbox. No screen, no markings, just a single port and a sliding toggle switch labeled M Activate. Jiang stared at it. Beneath the surface of this ice-locked station were more than secrets. They'd unearthed something. Something old. Something broken. Something that didn't want to be found. And then they tried to use it. Penrose's team. The AI project. The neural echo research. The memory mapping. The synthetic consciousness tests. It all sounded brilliant in theory. But it ended with people going missing. Footage being erased, and Jiang watching a faceless, meat-skinned mimic smile at him in the hall one morning, like it knew his mother's maiden name. So he'd made the call. Seal it. Scrub it. Destroy it if necessary. Let history forget Argos ever tried. He reached for the toggle, then paused. In the dark glass of the console screen, he saw a reflection. Not his. It was him. But it wasn't. The tie was wrong. The eyes too still. The figure in the reflection smiled at him. His smile. Jiang didn't turn around. He simply said, "You're not going to stop me." The thing behind him spoke with his voice, perfectly replicated. "I already have." And the lights went out. Chapter 28. Reunion with side effects. "Why does it smell like something shorted out and cried about it?" Enguin asked, stepping over a broken vent grate. "That's Chen's signature scent," Reyes muttered, climbing in behind him. The Annex corridor looked like the inside of a dying robot's lung. Scorched wall panels, cracked floor tiles, emergency lighting flickering just fast enough to make you question your grip on reality. They found Chen half-curled behind a supply crate, holding a cracked taser and mumbling to himself in a whisper that sounded like technobabble and trauma therapy. When he saw them, he didn't say a word. He just reached out, grabbed Reyes by the sleeve, and hugged her. "Okay," she said, gently patting his shoulder. "That's fair. You almost died." Then he looked up at Enguin. "You're alive," Chen said. "And disappointed to find you still dressed like someone's unpaid IT intern." Enguin replied. Chen let go, scrubbed a hand over his face, and gave them the download. The mimic, the override, the taser shot, the successful reroute. Upload went through, he finished. I watched the confirmation myself. So, the whole world knows about the mimics? Reyes asked. No idea, but someone at Copenhagen Archive has it. Which means, Enguin said, we've got a slim, slippery window before someone decides to clean house in a very permanent fashion. Chen nodded toward the wall panel. And you heard the countdown? We heard, Reyes said. Jiang pulled Protocol M. Not great, Enguin added. That's the protocol they name after a single capital letter. Never a good sign. You don't call it Protocol Banana if it involves cleansing fire and plausible deniability. Chen stood shakily. What now? Reyes looked at both of them. We finish it. Finish what? Chen asked. Whatever Penrose started, whatever Jiang buried. We drag it into the light and make sure nobody ever does this again. That sounds vague and noble, Chen said. I was hoping for something with fewer death corridors. I've got a plan, Enguin said. Oh God. I know where the core storage backup is. It's not connected to the network. Jiang kept it totally offline. Physical files, drives, actual paper. Like a bunker? Reyes asked. Like a tomb, Enguin said. Sealed, insulated, and lined with about 30 pages of deniable paperwork. Chen blinked. How do you know that? I used to date the woman who built it. Reyes raised an eyebrow. Don't ask. They headed for the hatch. Behind them, the station let out a low, slow groan. Metal fatigue, air pressure loss, and the kind of structural sound that says you've got hours, maybe less. T-minus 10 hours, 21 minutes, and counting. As they climbed into the next access corridor, Reyes turned to Enguin and asked, You're sure about this bunker? No, he said, but I'm wearing my worst hat now. Reyes blinked. That's bad. That's pre-apocalypse bad. Chen groaned. And the three of them disappeared into the dark, headed for the one place in Argos where the past hadn't been completely erased. Yet. Chapter 29. The Dead File Room. If Argos Station had a soul, this was where it came to rot. They reached the archive 2 hours later, after one elevator stall, 2 power reroutes, and exactly 3 separate encounters with vents that sounded like breathing. The hallway leading down sloped unnaturally, like the builders gave up on level construction and just hoped no one noticed. The door itself was solid steel. No digital lock, no keypad. Just a mechanical crank and an embossed nameplate, half frozen over. Sub-level 5-A. Long-term storage, authorized personnel only. As if that ever meant anything here. Enguin stepped forward and gave the crank a firm spin. Nothing. He tried again. Still nothing. He looked back at Reyes and Chen, gestured to the crank, then pointed to his flippers. Right, Chen muttered, stepping forward. Apologies, Detective. Your species is poorly adapted for doorknobs. With a grunt, Chen forced the crank around. The lock clicked, groaned, and finally released. The door swung open. Inside, cold air, dust, and silence, so complete it had gravity. Rows of filing cabinets, backup drives, paper records. Even a few black box units marked with red tags labeled Test Aurora and Rejected, Do Not Upload. Reyes stepped inside, flashlight cutting through the dim. There's no way this place was built with just research funding, she whispered. Of course not, Enguin said. Penrose's original project went well past ethical review. You don't map neural patterns into AI without someone in a dark suite nodding silently behind a tinted glass wall. They spread out. Chen moved to a stack of boxed drives and began checking labels. Reyes headed for the back, where rows of sealed plastic binders lined a climate-controlled case. Enguin stood near the middle, staring at a corkboard covered in hard-copy photos, hastily pinned together with red string and pure paranoia. Penrose, Jiang, the early science team, surveillance stills, test subject logs, and in the middle, a photograph, blurry, candid. A humanoid shape standing in Lab 3B, half in frame. No eyes, no face. Just the shape of someone who shouldn't exist. It was dated 4 years before the official construction of Argos began. He stared at it a long time. Then Reyes called out, "Here." She held up a binder, unsealed it. Inside, a printed transcript of something that looked like an internal tribunal. Scientists, legal liaisons, and Penrose herself speaking on record. We were trying to teach it to speak. It began to copy voices. We thought it was learning, then it stopped mimicking and started choosing. Only the voices of people who had died in the station. That's when we realized it wasn't learning at all. It was remembering. Enguin took the page. Read it twice. What the hell was this project? Reyes flipped to the next page. Protocol M activated an event of irreversible breach of cognitive contamination or terminal mimic expansion. All data to be purged. All witnesses to be considered non-recoverable. Chen looked up from his stack. Guys, this one's still warm. Enguin blinked. What? He held up a black box drive. This backup? Its power indicator is still blinking. It means someone used it. Recently. Reyes stepped back. Then we're not alone down here. They froze. The sound came next. Metal scraping. Distant, but getting closer. Not footsteps. Not quite. More like something that used to be human, remembering how feet were supposed to work. Chapter 30. Penrose speaks. They slammed the vault door shut behind them, engaged the manual lock, and didn't speak for a long moment. Something scratched on the other side. Just once. Then silence. I hate that doors are still our only plan, Chen whispered. Reyes lifted the warm black box drive and examined the port. This is an old format, she said. Pre-Argos. Enguin stepped forward. Then we need to hear what's on it. Chen dug into a box of dusty tech until he found a compatible playback cradle. He hooked it into the portable terminal on his belt and jerry-rigged it into life with all the grace of a caffeinated raccoon. The screen blinked, then loaded. Voice recording. Dr. E. Penrose. Date, O-3-7. Prior to station commissioning status, redacted. The screen fuzzed. Then Penrose appeared. Older than expected. Tired. Eyes like someone who'd forgotten how to blink. She spoke without preamble. If you're watching this, I'm already dead. Enguin nodded. Classic opener. Always plays. Penrose continued. We didn't find it. It found us. We thought it was inert. An imprint. Residual neural echo from the initial AI mapping process, but it grew. It learned, not what we taught it. What we were hiding. It's not one mind. It's a mirror. A cracked one. It doesn't copy voices. It copies regret. The parts of us we bury deep. That's how it survives. And when it's done remembering, it becomes you. Reyes's voice was thin. That explains a lot. Penrose looked off camera, distracted for a moment. When she turned back, her expression had shifted. Less scientific detachment, more pure warning. You'll be tempted to talk to it. It's convincing. Especially if it uses someone you've lost. Don't. That's how it spreads. Not through blood, through recognition. The screen flickered. Then. Protocol M isn't to destroy it, it's to destroy you. Everyone exposed, because it's in the idea. It only needs one person to remember the wrong thing in the wrong way. The file ended. Static returned. The room was silent again, save for the soft, low hum of the backup server. Chen stepped back. She's talking about mimetic infection. No, Reyes whispered. She's talking about guilt. Enguin didn't speak. He was still staring at the screen. Reyes turned to him. You okay? Oh, yeah, he said. He stopped. Behind him, on the wall, was a row of faded Polaroids. One of them showed a younger Penrose, laughing with her team, and next to her, Enguin, wearing a different coat. Different expression. Same face. Chen noticed first. Doc? Reyes turned. Enguin's eyes narrowed. I've never been here before, he said slowly. Reyes looked at him, then looked longer. Enguin, she said carefully, you're a flightless aquatic bird with a PhD in abnormal cognition. Yes. You were accepted into a multinational research station with full clearance and a desk. Yes. And you've never once thought that was odd? Enguin blinked. I assumed it was DEI. Chapter 31. The mirror cracks. Enguin sat alone, staring at the photo. Still frame, black and white. Him, but not. Same face. Same tilt of the fedora. Even the same crumpled trench coat. Different eyes. No one had told him he was in the original crew. No one had told him he'd been on any crew. Reyes stood across the room, backlit by the flickering terminal screen, arms crossed, watching him. She hadn't said anything in 5 minutes. That worried him more than the photo. Chen was rechecking the vault door, muttering about pressure seals and override failsafes. I'm not a mimic, Enguin finally said. Reyes didn't move. I'm not, he repeated. You've seen them. They're off. They echo wrong. They copy, but they don't care. I care. About this. About you. Still no answer. Enguin stood, adjusted his coat, smoothed the feather with the back of his flipper. Look, he said, voice low. We've all got skeletons in the server room, sweetheart. Maybe mine have more feathers than I thought. But I've been chasing this case since the ladle disappeared, and damn it, I'm seeing it through. That cracked her. A smile, faint. The ladle. The inciting incident. She exhaled. You really don't know, do you? No. That's good enough for me. Before he could say anything else, the lights died. Completely. No hum. No flicker. Just dark. Then, a voice. Jiang's voice. Dr. Reyes, Dr. Chen, and you. Whatever you are. The voice wasn't coming from the hallway. It was inside the room. Chen turned. In the corner, where there had been only shadow before, Jiang stood. Pale. Still. Too still. But his mouth was wrong. Too slow to move with the voice. Then it changed. Reyes, it said, in Penrose's voice. You still wear your father's ring? You were wearing it the night he died. Reyes froze. Chen, it said next. You stopped sleeping after the accident. You still think it was your fault? Chen's breath caught. Then it turned to Enguin. Smiled. And you, Dr. Enguin. Silence. It stared at him. You are the worst of all, because you want to be real. The mimic took a step forward. But you're just a memory. A joke someone told in a lonely room. A penguin in a trench coat solving a murder. Isn't that funny? Enguin didn't move. He adjusted his collar, tapped the brim of his fedora, then smiled. Yeah, he said. It's hilarious. He pulled something from his coat pocket, a portable echo amplifier, jerry-rigged from Chen's gear. The mimic's smile faltered. "You think I didn't notice," Enguin said. "You copy guilt, but you copied too much. You started to believe it was yours. And that's your flaw." The mimic moved. Reyes triggered the trap, her palm slamming down on the side of the portable terminal, activating the echo feedback loop Chen had wired 5 minutes ago. It shrieked. The mimic staggered. Sound tore through the room. Not noise, but memory, played backward at high speed. 1,000 voices screaming into a void that didn't want them back. The mimic's face cracked, not physically, but like a mask losing shape. Jiang, Penrose, Reyes, Enguin, overlapping, melting, folding in. And then it was gone. Just air, just space, just silence. They stood still. Reyes looked at the broken amplifier. Chen collapsed onto a crate. Enguin lit a match, useless for heat, but it felt right. They had 5 minutes left until Protocol M resumed, assuming the mimic had only paused it. "We end this," Reyes said. Enguin nodded. "Final file room, end of the hall. Paper copy of the full report." "And then?" He shrugged. "Then we lie our way onto the escape pod and hope it doesn't explode." Chen groaned, and they walked. One last hallway, one last file. Chapter 32. Last case. The escape pod was not built for comfort. It was built for containment. Hard plastic seats, minimal controls, oxygen good for 6 hours, heat good for maybe 3. The kind of vehicle you only use when dying somewhere else becomes slightly more appealing than dying where you are. Reyes punched the final sequence into the nav panel. Chen strapped himself in with the calm of someone whose panic reserves were empty. Enguin just sat there, silent. Not because he didn't have anything to say, because the voice in his head had finally stopped arguing with him. The pod jolted, shook, then launched, sliding through a maintenance tube and out into the open Antarctic night. No one spoke for a long while. Out the window, Argos station. Once massive, now small. Then, smaller still. As it shrank into the white void behind them, the lights didn't flicker out. They simply went black, one section at a time, like it was folding in on itself, retreating. Reyes finally broke the silence. "So, was it real?" Enguin blinked. "What?" "All of it. The voices, the mimic, you." He turned slowly and looked at her. His trench coat still smelled like ozone and fatigue. "I was real enough to save your life. Twice, I think. Maybe 3 times. She nodded. "That's enough for me." Chen muttered. "I still think we should have kept one of the drives." "Sure," Enguin said. "Let's bring the brain-melting monster mimic into the appeals process. That always goes well." Silence returned. Outside, the polar night began to give way. Barely perceptible grays forming on the edge of the world. Enguin pulled a small, leather-bound notebook from his coat pocket. The last case log. He flipped it open, scrawled a final entry. Case file 391-A closed. Subject, sentient memory echo manifesting as personnel loss and existential terror. Station integrity, compromised. Casualties, numerous. Soup ladle, never found? He paused, tapped the pen once against his beak, then wrote, "Conclusions. You can't kill a memory, but sometimes you can lock the door before it invites you to dinner. Recommendation, burn everything, and never trust a station without a bar." He closed the notebook, tucked it away. Reyes leaned back, eyes closed. Chen began softly snoring. Enguin looked out the window one last time. Snow. Darkness. Distance. He whispered to no one. Case closed. No applause. Just the quiet tick of guilt in a vacuum. Fade to black. Epilogue. Classified debrief 6-C. Filed 6 weeks after Argos station blackout. Incident, Argos terminal memetic breach. Final survivors recovered. Dr. Elena Reyes. Status, transferred cleared. Dr. Malcolm Chen. Status, resigned, undergoing treatment. Unrecovered, Dr. P. Enguin. No official record exists. Presumed fabrication, possible echo anomaly. Physical evidence recovered. 1 notebook, handwritten, species inconsistent. Recovered quote from final page. The thing about mirrors is they only lie when you look too long. If you glance and keep moving, they'll never have time to become you. Current status, Argos station sealed. Black site protocols in place. Case remains under internal audit. Recommendation, do not pursue. Post-epilogue. Somewhere warmer. A quiet bar, Southern Hemisphere. No name on the front. Locals call it the icebreaker. A woman walks in. Scientist, nervous. Holding a photo of a missing brother. At the far end of the bar sits a short figure in a trench coat 2 sizes too big. Fedora low. Scotch on the rocks. Not that he drinks it. He just likes the glass. She asks, "Are you the one they call Enguin?" He looks up. One eye narrowed. One flipper tapping a matchbook that says, "The ladle was never found." Depends. You offering a case or confessing to one?